afternoon. Can everybody hear me? My name's Duncan Baker-Brown. I'm a senior lecturer at University of Brighton, a practicing architect. And I believe designers can possibly save planet Earth, because I think it's all about managing resources, and it's designers and constructors who do just that. We specify the stuff, we tell people what to build buildings out of and how to. And we've been speaking about it next door for the last 3 days. There's a lot of buzz around about this idea of a circular economy. The issue is, though, you need to get these principles in right at the beginning. 80% of the decisions made at feasibility stage prevent a closed-loop system happening later on. So as with sustainable development, you can't just sort of bolt this thing on at the end. It has to be implicit right at the beginning. I've got a book to sell, RIBA book publishers down that way. They're selling it at the moment. But that's not the real point. The point was I was afforded the luxury of writing this book, which considered steps towards a circular economy, because for a lot of people it's a long way away. So I've got chapters around recycling projects, then the better step, which is reuse, then the better step again, which is reduce the amount of materials you're going to use, and finally the projects that are genuine closed-loop systems. So I'll start with step one, and it is rather basic, but what you're doing is gathering stuff and often reprocessing it, and it goes down the sort of hierarchy of value, unfortunately. But I was looking at ocean plastic waste in about 2012, and I kept seeing this logo, and I was wondering what Parley was. And this is the owner of Parley. And Parley's a brand nurturer, and they were behind G-Star jeans, who their raw jeans had ocean plastic in them. But also, this guy's been working with the Sea Shepherd. And Paul Cook, who's the captain of the Sea Shepherd, for 40 years has been chasing whalers. And what's that got to do with us? Well, you might like whales like I do. But here, he changed the thing he was chasing, and he chased an illegal fishing factory ship for 110 days. It had millions of fish on board, illegally caught. Normally, he could sell it, even though it was illegal. On this occasion, on the 111th day, the ship was scuttled because Parley had been tweeting about it, Facebooking it, etc. Nobody would touch the cargo. So the ship was scuttled. This is 75 kilometers of illegal gill nets, which Adidas now use to make training shoes with Parley. So the issue is, if you buy a pair of training shoes and you know it's made out of ocean plastic and ghost nets, will you throw these shoes away? They've been making them for a year now, but they've also been doing football kit. That's Bayern Munich, but Ronaldo's kit the other night when he scored a good header was made out of ocean plastic waste. Will this affect change? Interface have been doing it for years, making carpets out of nets from fishing communities in the Philippines. They can make more money collecting the nets than they do catching fish. Here we are, there's other waste streams. We've got to look at new materials. We all drink coffee. This is what waste coffee grounds look like. You can make coffee cups and coffee saucers out of coffee grounds. You can make other materials. We've got to identify new material flows. This was on the BBC News 2 nights ago. It's a Brighton graduate, one of our graduates. Did this 10 years ago. This is a chewing gum bin made out of old chewing gum. At the end of its life, the bin and the chewing gum goes back to the factory, is reprocessed into more chewing gum bins. This is what we can learn from other businesses. The next best step is reusing. Just had Cressy talking about her work next door, but she describes herself as a commodity broker. She's sourced 15 different material flows and turns them into things. She buys up the world's supply of fire hoses, damaged, turns them into handbags. She also sells the other spare fire hoses to other people. This is the waste house I did as a bit of a provocation. This is a learning tool, a permanent building. The first building made out of 90% waste that's permanent in the UK, creates 30% more energy than it consumes, built by kids as young as 15. Lots of pictures of young people in front of it. But it was initially going to be a building made out of the 20% of surplus and waste material that comes off any building site. But we ended up deciding to raise awareness of plastic waste. This was 2013. So we got kids to bring toothbrushes when they came to visit the site. But then we got a phone call from Gatwick Airport, and that's what 20,000 toothbrushes looks like. They collected that in 4 days, never used. So there are these huge resource flows that we need to tap into. DVDs, denim jeans, 21st century business plan. You buy your jeans ready-made from China, you cut your legs off and you sell them as shorts. That's 2 tons of denim insulation. We clad the building in carpet tiles. We got them fireproof. This has got full building regs approval. And you get a different sense of material and materiality, which is another presentation. But it's an ongoing learning place. And this is my co-curator for the Waystone next door, Nick Gant. Clever designers do this. Reduce. You might turn up at a situation, you know what, you might not need to use any new material. But it's also where we think of existing situations as our material stores for the future, these sorts of places. L'Aquitaine and Versailles did it in Paris. This tower block on the left was due for demolition. They went to the mayor and said, we'll give you your new tower for 2/3 of the price you're expecting to pay. There's the new tower. What they did is take off the old facade and bolt on quadruple glazed, double glazed, winter gardens, and here they are going up. Tenants were not moved out of the flats. And that's the before and after. Now, the difference between that and that is visually quite alluring and obvious, but here you've got greater levels of natural light, natural ventilation, the ability to open and close, and you know what? Extra space. And this is an insulation quilt. So this is sheltered housing, so you've reduced energy costs on people without a lot of money by 40%. This is a tower that's about to go on site in Norway. It's an existing tower. The big deal is they're going to extend it by using 80% of the material that's stripped off the building is going to be recycled and put back on the new building. And that's all about understanding your supply chain. Rota were here yesterday. They deconstruct buildings 1 bolt and screw at a time. So top left is the first shot, bottom right is where it ended up. This is what building deconstruction looks like. It's hard work when your buildings have not been designed for deconstruction in the first place. And that's what we need to do with the new ones. But most buildings are like this. Just in case you think it's a niche opportunity, this is Rota's current project. They're dismantling that building. They sell the product online, or they reinstall it. These are other techniques, harvest mapping, finding out this is your building site, what materials you can get within 5, 10, 15 kilometers of the site. Stuff lying around. In London, you've got a building going up and a building going down all the time. Start talking to each other and have a national resource exchange where the large contractors swap stuff for nothing. That's what we need, everybody to talk to each other. Contractors are spending hundreds of thousands every year just on throwing away surplus material and waste material. And I call it mining the Anthropocene. The Anthropocene is the current geological era we're in. And I think this is what we need to do. Let the natural world be we need to nurture it in some cases, let that come back, but mine the oceans, mine the cities for resources. And I'm not talking about demolishing cities. Work with what we've got. And the circular economy, just to remind you, is divided into 2 circles. The biosphere, which is the organic stuff, which will end up being compost one day, and then the technical stuff, which we have to design for constant reuse. And most smartphones, we have the technology to recycle 95% of most smartphones. We just choose not to at the moment. If Apple did that, they'd only have to mine for resources every 100 years. So I just wanted to leave you with that thought. Thank you very much.